As the unrest in Paris spreads to other parts of France over the death of a teen by the police, the streets have fallen into complete chaos. As a city burns with no end in sight. Now these videos seem very similar to what we saw in the US during the George Floyd riots in 2020. And actually, the circumstances leading up to the destruction and its effects on the country are strikingly similar. Now, although I don't speak French or have some inside connection to what's going on over there, I feel like we really need to talk about this because France is currently on its 4th night of race riots. And looking at the front page of CNN, ABC News, MSNBC, or even Fox News, nobody seems to be covering it at all. And I understand that this may be a French issue, but with the wide open borders in the US and our history of race riots, you would think that it would be relevant to the US unless it was contrary to the established narrative. So I'm glad we have social media and on-the-street reporters like Clement Leno. Now maybe some of this footage could be fake, as they're reporting rioters are going into the zoos, where allegedly there's footage of them setting free lions, with zebras running in the streets. But we can confirm several of the protesters are destroying the city while chanting Allahu Akbar and barking as they burn cars and take over the streets. They apparently also burn trains, the bus depot, and are even stealing buses. There's also a semi-truck that they took and rammed it into a shopping mall. And that wasn't the only one, because apparently they also stole a sports car and ran into a store as well. It was only a matter of time before the looting began, as they looted the Apple Store, and even Sephora that just sells makeup. Then they took to a McDonald's, where apparently their McFlurry machine actually works. And others are actually stealing pallets of merchandise, including the forklift. But now they've begun looting motorcycles and classic cars, but not to enjoy, just to destroy. As they knock down the gates at the stock exchange, burn down their own library and their local town hall. So with the shopping centers on fire and construction cranes are set ablaze, where are the firefighters? Well, apparently the rioters are also impeding their ability to work and are actually looting the fire trucks as well. Even worse, they're allegedly looting the police vehicles for weapons. Eventually their riot police do arrive, but are overwhelmingly outnumbered. Where they do make arrests, but are seemingly few and far in between. As the police seem to just be able to witness the destruction. But I do want to point out this guy, who just sits between the protesters and the police, enjoying his meal. And when the police rush the rioters, he simply doesn't care. Now oddly, just like the BLM riots in America, there also seems to be normal French citizens taking to the streets, so they can also protest while their communities are being destroyed. Eventually, small scuffles do ensue, where some arrests are made, but they actually look happy to be arrested over this. Now the riot police eventually seem to get them to disperse. But it does appear all of Paris was locked down for a bit. Now eventually random citizens were being attacked in the streets, where even semi-truck drivers were being pulled from their vehicles and beaten. So eventually mass citizens began fighting back with bats, which looks an awful lot like what happened in the US. So how is it that they can be on the other side of the world with a vastly different culture and have almost the same exact riots 3 years apart? Although the coverage is limited, the BBC reports on what started the unrest, where they report the guy shot by police was a delivery driver that played rugby. His education was chaotic, but was going to be an electrician. He was Algerian that lived with his loving mother, but never knew his father. The BBC then states that he did not have a criminal record, but was known to the police. Then stated that he was fatally shot when he drove off during a police stop, as he had out-of-country plates and was too young to even have a driver's license. And just last weekend, he was placed in detention for refusing to comply with a court date in September where, much of his trouble recently involved cars. So which is it, BBC? Was he a serial offender or not? They sure had no problem putting how much his mother loved him and how he was getting his life together, but way down in the article, only then do they write about how breaking the law was nothing new to him. It's almost like they saw the lies about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Jacob Blake and how they sparked mass destruction in our country. And they somehow thought, yeah, let's get that in our continent too. Because then they go on to write about how the cop just saw an Arab face and wanted to take his life, and how police violence happens every day, especially if you're Arab or black. Because I can think of me circa 2015, before I did this YouTube channel and began to look into things for myself. If I read a story about some poor kid that some evil racist cop went after, I too would be mad and might even march in the streets with them. But if the corporate dinosaur media was just honest and said, hey, a kid that gets frequently arrested for a specific crime lost his life while committing that crime again, all while awaiting trial for the previous times that he committed that same crime, I might not be blaming the police as much as I would be blaming the parent. But under no circumstances would I think, hey, a public servant did something bad, let's go destroy vintage cars and burn down the local mall. It's all insanity to me, but it seems at times these socialist leaders actually want this destruction. Because what is French President Emmanuel Macron doing while his country burns? Apparently he went to an Elton John concert. As Paris is destroyed, he blames social media platforms and video games. But that's where we are right now. I wholeheartedly doubt a socialist leader is going to be heavy-handed enough to stop these riots. And just like what they did in the US, they'll just hold out the average citizen as sacrifice to maintain their narrative. So if you appreciate my concise commentary on what's really going on in the world, hopefully I've earned your subscription, and then check out my more lighthearted take on how pathetic the modern day left has become.